Welcome everyone to the Ossetic or Ossetian language on the MOPC Languages channel. This is another one of my video in the series of the world languages. I'm gonna describe and talk about pretty much every language that can be described here in the channel, here on my channel, and this is my challenge. So subscribe to the channel and follow. Activate the notification bell because my challenge here is to cover pretty much every language that can be covered in the world. I'm talking about a few hundred languages, so stay tuned. The Ossetian language is a language that maybe most of you have not heard of because it's a minor language spoken in southern Russia and parts of Georgia by a little over 600,000 people. But it's an Indo-European language of the Iranian branch. Yes, it's a relative to the Persian language and the other Iranian languages such as Kurdish and Pashto. It is interesting not only because of its presence, but also because of who it descends from, what branch it descends from. The Ossetic people are actually related or descended from the old Iranian people that used to inhabit most of the land space between the Ukraine, between Eastern Europe and Central Asia, the region that is now Kazakhstan. But first let's take a look at the Iranian family, the family tree. Let's see how the Iranian languages or the Iranic languages have evolved from Proto-Indo-European. The Proto-Indo-Europeans must have lived in what is now actually this very region of southern Russia, somewhat north of the Caucasus. But then they migrated to Central Asia and went south into what is now Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, Iran, some 5,000, 4,000 years ago, establishing what is now known, what came to be known in ancient times and until today, as the Old Aryan languages and the Old Aryan peoples. The Aryan languages soon branched into a group of languages east of the Indus River, which is now in Pakistan. Those are the Indian languages, the Indo-Aryan languages. The most famous of which in antiquity was Sanskrit. Sanskrit is not the name of the language, Sanskrit is the description. Sanskrit means cultivated. But that's another story for another video. There will certainly be another video here describing Sanskrit and many Indian languages. The Old Aryan languages west of the Indus River became the Iranian language for the most part. And that's also another huge, very long story. There's Old Persian, there's Old Media, Parthian, a lot of very historically interesting names there. I bet you're all very curious to understand what those languages were like, how they came to be, how they're related to each other. But on this video, I'm going to focus on Ossetic, which is, as we can see here on the branch of the branching tree of Iranian languages, actually descended most likely from Old Alanian, the Alanian people, the Alans, or Alanian people of medieval times and late antiquity, were famous for having invaded Europe and having actually established a short-lived kingdom in the Iberian Peninsula in late antiquity. They actually occupied part of what is now Portugal and Spain for a few decades, before they were overrun by the Visigoths a little bit later. So yes, the Alanians became Europeans. Many Europeans, including Portuguese and Spaniards, are actually descended from the Alanian people. And those that stayed in Eastern Europe, in what is now Russia, were then pushed south by the expansion of the Slavic people that came from Poland, from what is now Poland, Belarusia, White Russia. And from that region, the Slavs ended up expanding eastwards towards what is now Russia and pushing the Iranian people out into Central Asia and the Caucasus. Many of them ended up assimilated by the Slavs. Many Russians and Ukrainians are actually the Old Alanians, the Scythians. The Scythians were the most famous, the most important Old Iranian people to have existed. They have branched off Old Persian from Old Persian, other languages in the Iranian family, perhaps as long ago as 3,000 years. The Iranian empire, the Achaemenid Empire of Cyrus the Great and Darius and Xerxes, already had interactions and wars with the Scythians. The Scythians invaded actually Egypt in ancient times, and the Scythians invaded a lot of other people. Scythians dominated all over Eastern Europe and Central Asia for many, many millennia until antiquity. And later on, other Iranian peoples related to the Scythians, the Sarmatians, the Sogdians, who were actually more further into the east, more like into what is now Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan and eastern Kazakhstan, and also the Massagetei and a few others, and the Saka peoples, were the Iranian peoples that that ruled over all over that space that we see here. You can see here this map. That's the Scythian kingdom in West Asia from 680 before Christ, around the year 600 before Christ, dominating much of what is now the Caucasus and the Ukraine and southern Russia and parts of Anatolia, eastern Anatolia, and what is now northwestern Iran. And then they expanded into this gigantic area known as Scythia, one of the largest nations in the world. Even though they didn't have a writing system, they did write Scythian occasionally using other scripts. We don't have that much evidence about the Scythian languages. The Scythian language and the other Iranian languages of the time, the Alanian languages, they were mostly only known from a few inscriptions in Greek alphabet, in a few Middle Persian inscriptions that came to survive until today, but they were only sporadically committed to writing. But they dominated this gigantic area for most of antiquity until medieval times, when, as I said, the Slavs took over Eastern Europe and Russia, and the Turkic people coming from southern Siberia and Mongolia. The Turkic people, helped by the Mongolian and their mastery of the horse, also overran much of Central Europe, Turkifying, turning the region of Central Asia into this Turkish area that we know today mostly of as Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and then they moved on to Turkey, but that's another story also. The Turkic people moved to Anatolia and became what is now the Republic of Turkey during medieval times, when they became Islamic. Here we have a map of Scythia in antiquity, Thrace, Meotia, Anatolia. That's the Greek days. That's when the Greeks had their classical times of Aristotle, Plato. Scythia was already a big player here, but mostly a barbaric kingdom. As I said, they didn't have a writing system, didn't have much of a civilization or very established cities. They were relatively backwards people in terms of technological advancements, but they were gigantically powerful with their hordes of horsemen that could invade a lot of their neighbors. They dominated much of India right at the time of the Persian Empire. When the Persian Empire dominated India, there was an Indo-Scythian kingdom also ruling much of what is now Pakistan and northeastern India. And many place names and river names in Eastern Europe have Scythian or Alanian or Ossetic, a northern Iranian, Eastern Iranian. Technically, it's the Eastern Iranian branch, as you saw in the evolutionary tree. Those Eastern Iranian languages, like the Scythian languages, they gave Europeans river names like the Don, which is in Russia. We have the river Don in southern Russia, and the river Donets in the Ukraine, and also the Dnieper and the Dniester, which came from Old Scythian, the Napers and the Nastius. The word Don means river or water, just water. It means water or river in the Scythian languages. And maybe even Danube, the river Danube itself, which flows all the way to the Balkans and was known to the ancient Greeks as the Istros River, which is now separates Bulgaria from the part that separates Bulgaria from Romania, may have come from ancient Scythian as well. The Don in Danube is the Don that we see in all of those river names, related to Sanskrit's Danu, which means a flowing thing. But as I said, over time, The Scythian peoples were all shrunken down into a majority. Most of them were assimilated into the Slavic and Turkic invaders and other ethnicities that went into what was once known as Scythia or Sarmatia in medieval times, and pretty much all of what's left of them right now is North and South Ossetia. North Ossetia is a part of Russia, one of the autonomous republics of Russia that have their own ethnic majorities, and where the Ossetic language has an official status. And there's also South Ossetia. When the Soviet Union ended, South Ossetia remained in Georgia as a part of the Soviet Republic of Georgia. But over the course of time, South Ossetia became rebellious. And in practice, South Ossetia is actually administered by Russia. In practice, not officially, but in practice, de facto, South Ossetia is essentially ruled by Russia, especially since the Georgian-Russian war in 2008. But even before that, there was a problem with Indo-Ossetia, and South Ossetia became essentially managed by Russia over time, and no longer a part of Georgia, even though pretty much no government in the world other than Russia admits to that or recognizes the status of South Ossetia as a part of Russia. It is a de facto Russian province. Here we see images of Vladikavkaz, the capital of North Ossetia in Russia, a very attractive city. The Ossetians are Christian Orthodox people. For the most part, historically, the Ossetians have converted. There was a Muslim minority, but most of them practiced historically Orthodox Christianity. And we can see here Orthodox Russia. This is Vladikavkaz. The city is Vladikavkaz is the master of the Caucasus. Very powerful, very beautiful name. And this is a girl wearing a hat saying Alania, the Alanian. The Alania is another word for the nationality of the Ossetians, Alanians. They were the ones who invaded Western Europe 15 centuries ago. The word Ossetian is an exonym given by Georgians. So most foreign people call them Ossetians, Ossetes, or Ossetians, or Ossetics. But their own self-designation is Iron. This is not actually related to Iran, to the word Iranic. The word Iranic comes from the old term Aryan. The word Aryan, which were the self-description of the Iranians people in the past, Iranian and North Indian people in the past, became Iranian. That's a long story as well. There will be a video about where the word Iranian and Aryan came from. But the self-description of the Ossetes, Iron, is not descended from that word. It's most likely descended from the word wir, which is an old Indo-European word for man, and the noun formation word, mostly nationalities and profession forming suffix on. So it's wir on, where the nation of man, essentially. The Chechens, however, called the Ossetians Hiri or Hirish. Hirin would be the adjective for the Ossetian language in Chechen. Those Caucasian people have a lot of names for each other. It's very interesting, very diverse. Let's take a listen to the Ossetian languages spoken by Ossetians on their local Ossetian language television.
Уйжер хорж, амбаламта ижер рада студии. Нешфалд штадун кордима унархайтам самадишаг армаджитабасат такананил. Саварта штуй танр таккабажон за штуд. Наважджитадер сатташта одарайдаем. На республика ижбара коттой афаза хуждар ахурзаутынымты. Жағым архайтам ал хужан конкурста олимпиадаты алкай дариуна фандадишнахи хоржравдишын. Фолеуфатсак бана туди армаштариу. Майсамай райшай уйтухай қамы хорж басархай. Рашна абуну ажаджи хужан. Питар тадяна ахур канадашку фаштаука гшколай дашамклаша. Уиши хуждар ахурзау шармагун номинации афаза бархионтей. Дяна марбаза диждашку фашколай шархалауджи хадива қолмаладон кушты қолымбекті рита. Уйжар хорж. Аштар бужны бун кайнам шакка коттат, ама хорж вайт нертака да хадак дяна давай курай дайкам, ама магашкас на телевизор макачтандар самади шагу, сайкуя канзашт.
Маража мунак Рита Владимировна мункужахта, ома аса конкурс ма басатта канам жахгавадын ждар дуван алжахтон. Фаш рочты фаште юшпаттыштам, ама положение садоманта от садомантам гашка шкотам сабыр кинонов, ама презентации. Наканажма собакуштам увол. Манам бантыштитаным бирам.
ما فتجنا ما كسرت كوت تايدخي ود كم دردم جنزينة تدرديشنا نتخشتهر كودوزان أجي ما خدك كوار خيطون ما خيسير أيدا من الأولمبياد تودي وتم تخشتن آل كتريري وشي درت أنساد بات تشتما ما مجش كأنسادي وشي بات ودوني وسمار أجدر فيش تفتم مكش تتأكد التود
بركاش تبون ما تكوتون ودنا كوتون فلا مرات كور خوتا ود ما خيسن نفشراتون أما ما بون كودودي أفتشرازرتون.
Well, now we're going to take a good look at the phonetics system. We've heard the language for a while. The vowel system in Ossetian is not that complex. You have E, E, The eri in Russia is not actually like the same. The eri here, you see here the eri in Russia is more like a sound. The AE is a very spelled in Ossetian Cyrillic. This ligature AE is more like It's not as frontal as and not as open. A little bit closer than A, of course. O, U, I, E. Here the Ossetic consonantal system. Just like most Caucasian languages, they're pretty heavy on consonants. They're not shy on the consonantal part. They have ejective consonants, which are marked by the apostrophe. There's an apostrophe after the letter. You can see the pa, ka, ka, tra, dra. They do have the whistling sounds like s, z. They typically alternate between dialects and regions between s and z by some and sh and j by others. So it's very the s sound and the sh sound, the sa and sha, za and ja. It varies a lot from person to person, from region to region. Most of the Ossetian that I've heard tends to pronounce those like palatals. So instead of sa, they say sha. Instead of za or za, they say ja or ja. That's the variant that I'm going to use in the samples. But my Ossetians, please forgive me. I have no fluency in Ossetian. So bear with me as I try to pronounce the samples that I'm going to give you of the grammar. Ossetian is a language with a lot of cases, even though the declension system that they have today is not inherited from Proto-Indo-European. This is not the old Iranian, Aryan declension system that we see in old Aryan languages like Sanskrit or Old Persian or Avestan. The system was developed in earlier time as Ossetians migrated to the Caucasus and redeveloped a case marking system more recently. And the case writing system, unlike Proto-Indo-European, like ancient Indo-European, is very irregular. And the termination, the endings for the cases are the same in the singular and the plural. And there are no genders. So pretty much, if you know, it is like a postposition, like a preposition added to the end of the word. It's quite relatively simple. The nominative case, of course, is the subject of the verb, and can also serve as a definite object, as an indefinite or inanimate object of a verb. So you can see here. The genitive, however, can be the possessive, of course, meaning of, the book of the man, the city of Russia, the street of the city. but it can also be the direct object of a verb if that direct object is an animate thing, like a living being or a person or either a person or an animal. Or if it's an indefinite, if it's an inanimate thing but definite, like the book, the house, the stone, serving as the direct object. And the numbers in general, actually all numbers, require also the genitive singular of nouns. You don't say 4 books, you say 4 of the book. The dative case, the other cases are pretty traditional. Some of the names are weird, but they are more obvious in their use. Dative case is the indirect object to, they gave that to a person. The elative case indirects a direction, a movement to, not a donation, but a movement towards something, into or towards something. Ablative is the opposite, from, the motion away from something. Inessive is to the into, and to the inside or inside something. I'm in the house, I am in the city. Adhesive is a position near or on something or around or about something. It can also mean about in the sense of the subject you're discussing, or what something is about, a book about history. The equative case indicates as. I am as tired as an old man. I ran as a horse. Commutative with, like the instrumental, could be called instrumental, but it's an instrumental case, but it's also commutative, indicates company, being together with someone, with something. This is the word sar, written in Ossetic Cyrillic and in transliteration, so you can take a look at the declension of the word. You can see that there's sar, the genitive is sara, then dative saran, sarme, sarai, sara. The inessive is like the genitive sometimes, in most cases. Saddle is by the head. The word sar is a nice word because it's identical to the Persian word for head, sar. Sar is word is head also in Iran. Then saral, sarima, and in the plural, usually form the plural of nouns using the suffix ta. Ta, sarta means heads, and the suffixes are essentially the same. You put like sarte, sartan, sartam, sartei, sartil, and so on. If there is a vowel, or if the word in the singular ends in a vowel, like basta, which is country, the vowel suffixes, the suffixes that begin in a vowel, insert a buffer semi-vowel ya before. So bastai and the ending becomes bastaye. Basta and the ending n, which is the ending of the dative, becomes bastayen. Bastayen, to the country. The plurals sometimes are irregular. You have the ta in the ending, but the root of the words usually changes, in many cases changes, so you have to look up on a dictionary usually what the plural of a word is like. Hoch means mountain, hekta means mountains. Song is a hand, tsangta is hands. Arm, I don't know if the source that I looked up this in was Russian, so they don't distinguish hand from arm. So maybe arm there is on hand, it's arm, because Russian has only one word for arm and hand. So I don't know, maybe the word arm is arm, which is interesting, right? It's just like the English word. And the plural of arm is armte. So one arm, 2 arms. Now actually 2 would require the genitive singular, right? This plural is used without numbers. Don, which is the word for river, we just saw. The plural of don or water has data. And chizg is a girl, chishdita. Fid, father, fid, delta. That's abnormal. That's abnormal. That's an irregular plural. Ossetians has a few postpositions, not so many, because it's already got so many cases that they mark. The cases make up. They have the same function as a preposition. They show the function, the relationship between words, what the words mean, and what they indicated in a sentence. So given that the cases already show that there are so many cases in Ossetian, postpositions are not that widely used. They don't have that many, but you do have like ser, which is the word for head, is also used to mean on, but then you have to put it in the dative to actually make it into a preposition, and the word that they refer to is put in the genitive. So it's like with ironau. I'm in the head of the table. I mean, I'm on the table. Bin, which is bottom, also is used the same. There are some true postpositions. They are not nouns, like zur and ong. I mean, near or up until. Those true postpositions, they require the genitive case. So you can here see between two rivers is due, donne. Don is river. Donne is of the river. Due is two. Due donne is two of the river, which means two rivers. And estawa. Estawa means between. Here we can see the Ossetic pronouns. You can see that the pronouns are declined like nouns. They have all the cases. There's in the nominative they are as or aj. Me means I, and de means you in the singular, and mach means we, and simach means you in the plural. Those are very similar to the other Iranian languages, especially Yaghnobi. Yaghnobi is the descendant of Old Sogdian and is spoken by a few thousand people in modern Tadjikistan. If you take a look there, I put a table with the Ossetic and Persians and the Yaghnobi pronouns in the second person, and first and second person singular and plural. In Ossetic of aj, da, mach, simach. In Persian, man, tu, mo, shamo. And in Yaghnobi, man, tu, boh, shamo. That's a little bit of the family there. The personal possessives are the genitive of the pronouns. Even though the full form is used, the pronouns have a full form and a clitic form, which you saw in the table below. There's a stressed form and a clitic form. And atche means this. Atche chinik is this book. Man is the full form. So atche chinik menu, that's used as a predicative. This book is mine. Just like mine in English, as opposed to my. The short form, my, is me. Ache me, chinik u. This, my book is. This is my book. That's the distinction that I make. The noun phrase is determiner, adjective, noun. The noun in the end, adjective before, and determiners typically come first. Ache barjond chinik. This big book. Only the noun is declined. The determiners and the adjectives are completely unchanging. They do not go to the plural. They do not receive any case endings. Ache barjond chinguta, which is these big books. Ache barjond chinguta. Ache barjond chingutam. These big books in the dative plural. To these big books. These are the third person pronouns. We hadn't seen those yet. We saw the determiner, the demonstrative, this, ache. That's the adjectival form. The independent pronoun is a, which means he. Oh, there's also we also. That's also can also be form utsi, uch. But a in the plural adon and ui and uidon. The a is this and we is that. And overall they're declined much like nouns. The same endings as you can see there, no big surprise. A chinek u, this is a book. Ache chinek vershagu. This book is Russian. Ache chingute vereshagst. These books are Russian. The question words, the pronouns that make questions, like chi is who, just like Persian. But when declined, they go to another stem. So the genitive is k. It's not che, it's k, and the dative is kemen. And the elative case is keme. The inessive form ken also means where, which is to be in who, to be in which place, in a place. And ch, as we saw, also means what. Che, chemen, cheme. The declension is a little bit more regular than ch. There's also Kechi and Cheve, which means which. Which one? The indefinite and negative pronouns. Chidar, Chudar. Very similar pronunciation there. Ishchi, Iste, Ketchuder, Ishketse, means any, Nichi. Just take a look there, write up, take your notes if you want to learn the languages. They are all there. Those screens were made to be captured, okay? There's a lot of information for a video. There's the adjective other. Ine is another, like inoi in Russian. And ender is the other, a definite word. The other, another. They use separate words for the two concepts. Quite interesting, but very Indo-European. Here is the full list of the question word: ch, kem, which means where, but kadem is to where, and kachei is from where. Kedme is ked is when, kedme is until when, and kedai is since when. And kud is how, and chal is how much. Ishkem is somewhere, nikem is anywhere. Kem there, ishked, niked, never. Some other words related to time, if you want to enrich your vocabulary there. Nir, nirmai, nirai, wed, wedme, wedai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing all those things right, okay? Don't go by me when it comes to pronunciation. I'm doing what I can. Abon, remember, bon is day, abon is today. Ijnon, raishom, yesterday and tomorrow. Wed, faron, denme, next year. And enderaj comes from aj, which is year, means next year. Here's the Ossetic verb to be. The big verb. In the present, you say ajdan. I am, ajdan. De, you are. U, or is, or I. I didn't find exactly what are the rules, conditions they use of these three forms, okay? I don't know, I'm sure there must be something, but U, is, and I are the third person. One of them actually interestingly very similar to English. Stem is we are, stut is you, plural are, and st is they are. There's a past with ten. There's also a past habitual, like I usually am, which is formed from another verb, another stem. A future there, which is formed with a suffix. There's a subjunctive. There's also a subjunctive past. There's a bunch of other forms I put here. The four most widely used forms: a gerund, yevge, which is being, and the present participle, weveg. Like pretty much, I think every Iranian language, there's a universal feature of the family. The verbs they have to have two stems, a present stem and a past stem, and all the conjugation is going to use, every single other form is going to use either one or the other. So you have to know, when you learn a verb, you have to know which present stem, which is typically like the infinitive, and a past stem, which is usually created by adding a dental sound, like a T or a D. So here we go to, for example, the word warjin, which is to love, the verb warjin, has a past stem warjt. Ajdel warjan means I love you. Deme warjish, you love me. Here is the verb warjin, conjugated in the present and in the past. Warjin, warjish, warje, warjem, warjut, warjent, warshton, warshtai, warshta, warshtam, warshtat, warshtoi. Verbal negation is made by na. Warjin, I love. Na warji, I don't love. And just another curious thing about the verb is that if it's reflexive, they use a he pronoun with the possessive form of the pronoun prefixed to it. So aj mechidashin, I shave myself. Des dechidashish, you shave yourself. Ui yechidashi, he shaves or she shaves herself. Mech nechi dashem, we shave ourselves, and so on. Here's the paradigm: is the he is the reflexive pronoun, and the form before is the genitive possessive form of the pronoun. Just like English, self, myself. The he is the self. Here's a handful of Ossetian verbs in the present stem, in the infinitive, and in the first person of the past. So ishin, which is to bear a load. Ishton, I bore. Within, to see. Witton, I saw. Jurin, I speak. Jirton, I spoke. And so on. Help yourself if you want to learn a language. You don't find that many sources on the language. Take a good look at the video. Capture the screen, and we'll move on. Ossetian distinguishes between transitive and intransitive verbs in the verbs. So many have different forms, like adding and gurin, to be born and to give birth. That's a kind of a natural one. But there's marin and malin, to kill and to die. They are both actually related to murder in English and morte in Latin. Kalin and Kalin, and Kadin, to be destroyed. Kalin and Kalin. Kalin and Kalin. Kalin and Kalin. Safin and Safin. Kusin and Kuisin. To flow, to lose, to get lost. To hear, to be heard. Continued, here another list of verbs that change when they become intransitive. Tavin, to warm something up. And tafshin, to become warm, to get warm, to warm yourself up. There are certain verbs that maybe can be used transitive and intransitively, and that's what's interesting about it, is that in the past, the personal endings change according to whether the verb is transitive or intransitive. We saw the verb to love, which is transitive, used in the past. Let's take a look at some of these verbs in the past here. You can say satin, which is to break, can be conjugated in the past transitively or intransitively. In the present, it doesn't change. Satin can be to break in the sense of I break something, or that I'm breaking myself, like I'm breaking the cup broke, the cup breaks if you hit it. But in the past, you have to distinguish the conjugation if it's transitive or not. Saston is I broke something, and sastan, I broke, I myself became broke. Those are the different endings for the past whenever there's a change in the transitivity of the verb. There's also a causative form for certain verbs. Jonin, to know. Jonin kanin is to make somebody know, to inform somebody, to teach. Harin is to eat. Harin kanin is to feed somebody. Ajmalin, to move. Ajmalin is to make something move. And the first verb, to move, or yourself are moving. Those things are moving over. They're changing place themselves. Ajmalin kanin is to make something move, to change the place of something else. The passive voice is made with the auxiliary verb tsawin, which is to go. This is very Iranian also, and also very commonly found in India. Arajin, arast chawin, to build and to be built. Elvidishin, to show, and evdisht chawin, to be shown. Jurin and Saktin, difference in aspect. So Ossetian has an aspectual system which is quite interesting. And maybe it reflects an old Iranian, North Iranian Scythian, a Scythian aspectual system that may have affected the development of the Slavic languages. The Slavic languages also have a pretty unusual aspect system. I thought that the Slavic and partly Baltic handling of aspect was unique to those languages until I learned something about Ossetian. I learned that Ossetian has a lot of features similar to Slavic, and it's not because, I think for the most part, not because Ossetian was influenced by Russian, but quite the opposite. I think that the Slavic people became heavily influenced by Eastern European, Iranian, Scythians and Alanians in the past, and Sarmatians, and maybe they already have that system that we're going to take a look at right now. Let's take a look here. If you put a prefix on a verb, if you learn any Slavic language, it's going to sound very familiar. If you put a prefix on a verb, the imperfective verb becomes perfective. So the imperfective means like a verb does an action itself without any boundaries. And the perfective verb means to perform a specific event, to actually go out one day within a specific time and coming back, instead of just going around, going out. I like to go out, that's imperfect. But tomorrow I'm going to go out at 8 a.m. and go back at 10 p.m. That's a perfective verb. If you put the ra means out, ra prefix, chowing becomes ra chowing, to go out, but it becomes perfective in meaning. Whereas chowing alone is imperfective. The perfective verb, rachawin, in the present, unlike Russian, which Slavic languages have no present perfective. In Ossetian, the present perfective is actually becomes habitual, becomes like a repetitive action, which is quite imperfective. But if you use the internal prefix shy, you can once again transform a perfective verb with a prefix into an imperfective. And say in the past, for example, Rachidi is he went out. That's the past of the verb chawe. Rachidi is he went out, but Rashaichid, he was going out. So shai is like an internal prefix, just like the Slavic suffix iva or ava, which does the same, right? Some verbs have an iterative aspect, which is made with like the verb canin, which is a verb to make, plus a participle of the verb. So kashin, to look, kashite canin is looked, to do, to make looks, which is to take several looks, iterative, repetitive aspect. The present participles, when they receive a prefix, they acquire a past meaning. So fishing is to write, fishag is writing in the present. Nufishag is having written, and fished is written, and fishinag is the future participle, something that's to be written. The future participle, if you study Latin, you know that, like futurus, nasciturus. There's an abundance of so-called light verbs. Light verbs are verbs made out of a noun and the verb canin or another verb. Typically it's canin. I think it's all, mostly canin in Ossetian, just like Persian. And also many Caucasian languages have that too. So I don't know who created it first, if it was the Iranian languages or the other Caucasian languages, or if it evolved independently. But languages all the way from India to the Caucasus are very rich in these verbs. So instead of making like creating new verbs, you take a noun like access, and to make access is to access something. Progress. So instead of making a verb to progress, to advance, you say to make and advance, to make progress. Or to make a typing is to type, or to make a hairdo is to shave your hair, to comb your hair, and to make a printing is to print something. That's a very Iranian thing, very Persian, but it's also very Chechen, very Caucasian feature. Light verbs with prefixes take the prefix on the nominal part. There's a part that's not a verb. And if they go from transitive to intransitive, instead of canin, they have to use the verb to be, when. Even though verbs without prefixes can alternate, can be used intransitively with the verb canin. Eu canin, eu is one. Eu canin is to make one, to unite. But if you put the prefix ba in the verb, it's ba you, not ba canin. Ba koton is I united, and ba you then is I became united. That's the intransitive passive form. Nede ferach to koton. Nede ferach koton. That's the prefix fer. Roch canin is to forget. Roch koton is I forgot, but ferach koton is nede ferach koton, I haven't forgotten you. And to finish, there's the comparison between the numbers in the main Iranian languages and Ossetian, Persian, Kurdish, Pashto, and Ossetian all the way to 1,000. Take a good look there. You see that Ossetian is a little bit deviant, but there's a catch. It's not only the most different one, but if we move on, we can see that Old Ossetian had a vigesimal system. That's a 20-based system, much like so many other languages of Europe and the world. They actually went all the way to 20, and then the tens between 20 and 100 were counted in terms of 20. So 40 was 2 20s, 35 was 20 plus 15, and 60 of course was 3 20s, and 80 was 4 20s, and 95 was 4 20s 15. Just like French still has some of it, because French took it from the old Western European Celtic languages that use that system a lot. And Ossetian has both systems. There's a decimal system, which today is more widely used, and there's a vigesimal system, which reflects an older, more archaic and a little bit more complex way of counting from Old Ossetian. The other Iranian languages are not vigesimal, so I don't know who Ossetic took it from, or probably from the other Caucasian languages. Some Caucasian languages do have that feature too. So I hope you had a good lesson on this very strange and very there's almost nothing about Ossetian even on the web. I had a hard time finding any material on the language. I found a few books in Russian, a few books in English, a few articles and academic works that I had to really twist and really pour over for several months or a long time to be able to draw the most important features of the language into this video. I hope it was very informative. Please tell me if you liked it. What else you would like to know about languages? What other languages you'd like to know in the world? And you can also contact me and learn languages directly with me. I don't teach Ossetic, but I do teach many European languages, a few classical languages, a couple of Asian languages maybe. Get in touch with me on my email, and also you can also acquire my online multilingual thematic dictionary that contains all the main European languages, and Asian languages are being added as well. So all the 14 main European languages, Latin, Greek, modern Greek, ancient Greek is going to be added. I'm adding a Chinese, Arabic, Persian, Turkish, and a few other like Japanese and Hindi are going to be added as well, maybe Hebrew. So get in touch, get to know. The links below the video have a sample of my dictionary as well. Take a good look there, and I guess we see each other on the next video.